They say you can't choose your family, but nobody warns you that sometimes family chooses to destroy you. My daughter-in-law had been breaking into my apartment for 6 months, stealing from me, gaslighting me, and turning my own son against me. The police wouldn't help. My son didn't believe me, so I did something they never saw coming. I disappeared and let her walk straight into her own trap. This is my story of revenge, and trust me, you'll want to hear how this ends. Welcome to Vintage Vengeance, where we prove that getting even isn't just for the young. My name is Margaret Washington, and at 72 years old, I thought I'd finally earned my peace. Let me be clear about something right from the start. I'm not the type of woman who looks for drama. I raised my son Joshua right, worked 40 years as a nurse at Chicago Memorial, buried my husband Richard with dignity, and moved into my quiet little apartment at Riverside Gardens to live out my golden years in peace. I did bingo on Tuesdays, water aerobics on Wednesday and Friday mornings, and bridge club every Thursday afternoon. I bothered nobody. I expected the same courtesy in return. That's not what I got. It started 3 months after I moved into Riverside Gardens. My daughter-in-law, Brittany, and let me tell you about Brittany Turner Washington, 28 years old, Instagram perfect, with that kind of smile that looks genuine until you see it doesn't quite reach her eyes. My son Joshua met her at some marketing conference 5 years ago and was married within 8 months. Red flag number 1. But what mother wants to be that woman? The one who says her son's wife isn't good enough? So I smiled. I welcomed her. I tried. The visits started innocently enough. Brittany would drop by with coffee from that expensive place downtown. Just checking on you, Mom, she'd say, all sugar and sweetness. But then I noticed things. The way she'd wander through my apartment while I was in the bathroom. How she'd open drawers in my kitchen, my living room, asking casual questions that weren't casual at all. Mom, do you keep important papers in here? Where do you keep your jewelry, Mom? Have you thought about what you want to do with Dad's watch collection? My husband Richard had been gone 3 years, and this girl was already conducting an inventory. Then came the incident with the coins. Richard had collected state quarters and commemorative coins for 30 years. Nothing museum quality, but some pieces were worth a few $100s each. I kept them in a locked display case in my second bedroom. Brittany asked about that collection every single visit. What were they worth? Had I had them appraised? What was I planning to do with them? I deflected, called it sentimental value, changed the subject. One Thursday, I came home from bridge club at 4:30 in the afternoon, and my door was unlocked. Not just unlocked, slightly ajar. My heart was hammering as I pushed it open, half expecting to find my apartment ransacked by some stranger. What I found was worse. The coin display case was open. 3 of Richard's most valuable pieces, a 1955 double-die penny, a 1916 Mercury dime, and a 1932 Washington quarter, were gone. Just gone. And sitting on my kitchen counter, still warm, was a coffee cup with Brittany's signature lipstick shade, that peachy pink color she always wore. She'd been in my home, without permission, without me knowing, and she'd stolen from me. That's when I knew this wasn't going to be a simple family disagreement. This was war. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in my living room chair, the same chair Richard used to read the newspaper in every Sunday morning, and I stared at that empty coin case until the sun came up. My hands were shaking, not from fear, from rage. At 8 a.m., I called Joshua, my son, my only child, the boy I'd raised to know right from wrong, to respect other people's property, to be honest above all else. Joshua, we need to talk. It's about Brittany. I could hear the immediate defensiveness in his voice. Mom, it's early. What's wrong? Your wife was in my apartment yesterday. She took 3 coins from your father's collection. Valuable ones. Silence. Then, Mom, that's ridiculous. Brittany was at work all day yesterday. She couldn't have. Joshua, her coffee cup is sitting on my counter. Her lipstick is on it. The door was unlocked when I got home. Those coins are gone. More silence. But this time I could hear whispering in the background. She was right there, coaching him, telling him what to say. Mom, maybe you're confused about when she visited last. You know, she brings you coffee sometimes. And those coins, are you sure they're not just misplaced? That case has a lot of. Joshua Antonio Washington, I am not confused. I am not misplaced. I am not losing my mind. Your wife stole from me. He sighed. That sigh. The one that said he thought I was being difficult, irrational, problematic. Look, we'll come over tonight after work, and we'll all talk about this calmly, okay? I'm sure there's an explanation. They arrived at 6:30. Brittany came through my door with tears already forming in her eyes. And let me tell you something about crocodile tears. I'd seen plenty in my 40 years of nursing. I knew the difference between real grief and performance art. This was a Tony Award-winning performance. Mom, she said, her voice breaking perfectly on cue. I can't believe you'd accuse me of something like this. I love you. I've been trying so hard to help you, to be there for you since Dad passed. And now you think I'm some kind of thief. I don't think, Brittany. I know. You were here. Your coffee cup. Yes, I was here. On Tuesday. I brought you coffee Tuesday morning before you went to water aerobics. Remember? We talked about your book club selection. She turned to Joshua with wounded eyes. Baby, I'm worried about her. This isn't the first time she's been confused about days. My blood went cold. I am not confused. Joshua put his hand on my shoulder, that patronizing touch that made me feel like a child being soothed. Mom, Brittany's right. She was here Tuesday. I remember because she was running late to work afterward. And those coins, when's the last time you actually looked at that case? Maybe they've been gone for a while, and you just noticed. They were there Monday night. I looked at them Monday night before bed, like I do every night. It's how I remember your father. Brittany wiped at her eyes. Mom, I think maybe we need to talk about getting you checked out. Memory issues are nothing to be ashamed of. At your age. Don't you dare finish that sentence. But she did. She looked right at me with those cold eyes hiding behind fake tears and said it. At your age, these things happen. We just want to make sure you're okay. Maybe it's time to consider some help. Someone to check in on you more regularly. Make sure you're not forgetting things or misplacing valuables. Joshua nodded along. My own son, nodding along while this woman suggested I was losing my mind. They left 30 minutes later with the coins still missing and me labeled as the problem. That's when I knew talking wouldn't work. I needed proof. The next morning, I drove to Best Buy. Now, I'm not exactly tech savvy. I still have a flip phone that Joshua keeps trying to replace with one of those smartphones. But I knew what I needed. A camera. Something that would catch Brittany in the act. Something that would prove I wasn't the crazy old woman she was making me out to be. The young man in the blue shirt, his name tag, said Devin, was patient with me. I explained what I needed without explaining why. Just said I wanted to keep an eye on my apartment for security purposes. Do you want something visible or hidden? He asked. What's the difference? Visible cameras are a deterrent. People see them and don't try anything. Hidden cameras catch people who think they're not being watched. I thought about Brittany's face, that calculated sweetness. Hidden, I said, definitely hidden. Devin set me up with a small camera that looked like a regular alarm clock. It sat on my bookshelf, pointed toward my front door, and most of my living room. It connected to an app on a tablet. He helped me set up my first tablet at 72 years old. It recorded everything and kept it in something called cloud storage that I didn't fully understand but trusted would work. Cost me $347. Worth every penny. I installed it that afternoon, positioning it carefully on my bookshelf between a framed photo of Joshua's graduation and a ceramic bird Richard had bought me in Santa Fe. It looked innocent, just another piece of an old woman's cluttered life. Then I waited. I didn't have to wait long. Wednesday morning, I left for water aerobics at 9 a.m., same as always. I made sure to close my door loudly to follow my normal routine exactly. I even stopped to chat with Mrs. Chun from 4B about her grandson's baseball game, making sure anyone watching would know I was gone for my usual hour and a half. But I didn't go to water aerobics. I drove around the block, parked in the visitor lot where I could see the building entrance, and opened that app on my tablet with shaking hands. At 9:15, my apartment door opened. There she was, Brittany Turner Washington, in her expensive athleisure wear and designer sunglasses, letting herself into my apartment with a key I had never, ever given her. I watched her on that little screen, my heart pounding so hard I thought I might need my blood pressure medication. She went straight to my bedroom, opened my jewelry box, Richard's anniversary gift, the hand-carved mahogany one with the brass hinges. She took out my mother's pearl necklace, held it up to the light, took a photo of it with her phone. Then she opened my nightstand drawer, rifled through my papers, photographed my bank statements. She spent 43 minutes in my apartment. I know because I sat in that parking lot, recording her recording me, and I watched every single second. When she finally left, she locked my door carefully behind her, checked her appearance in the hallway mirror, and walked out of my building like she owned the place. I sat in my car for 10 minutes after she left, trying to calm my breathing. I had proof now. Undeniable, video-recorded proof. I called Joshua immediately. "Mom, I'm at work. Can this wait?" "No, Joshua, it cannot wait. I have video footage of your wife breaking into my apartment this morning. Breaking in, going through my things, photographing my belongings. I need you to come over tonight and see this." Another sigh. "Mom, did you install cameras? Are you spying on Brittany now?" "Spying? Joshua, she has a key I never gave her. We'll talk about this tonight. I have a meeting." He hung up. They came over that evening with a strategy. I could tell the moment they walked through my door. This wasn't a conversation. This was an intervention. Brittany carried a casserole dish. "Homemade chicken and rice," she said. "I thought we could have dinner together and talk about everything calmly, Mom." My appetite vanished the moment I saw her face. That practiced concern, that carefully arranged expression of worry mixed with pity. I pulled up the footage on my tablet before we even sat down. "Look, just look at this, and tell me I'm imagining things." Joshua took the tablet. I watched his face as he watched the video, his wife entering my apartment, going through my bedroom, photographing my belongings. 43 minutes of undeniable evidence. When it finished, he looked at Brittany. She started crying immediately, again with the tears, again with the perfect performance. "Baby, I can explain. Mom, I can explain." She reached for my hand. I pulled away. "I have been coming over. You're right, but not to steal from you, to help you. I've been so worried about you living alone, and I asked you months ago if I could have a spare key to check on things. You said yes. Don't you remember?" "I never said that. I never gave you a key." "Mom, you did. It was right after that dizzy spell you had in September. You said you wanted someone to be able to check on you if you weren't answering your phone. Joshua was there. Baby, tell her." Joshua looked uncomfortable. "Mom, I do remember you guys talking about A key. I thought you'd worked that out. My mouth fell open. You were there when I supposedly gave her permission to invade my privacy whenever she wants. It wasn't invading, Mom. It was helping. And the jewelry, I was taking photos for insurance purposes. You mentioned you hadn't updated your policy since Dad died, so I was documenting what you have. And those bank statements, Mom, you left them sitting out on your nightstand. I was concerned about identity theft, so I photographed them to show you that you need to be more careful about where you leave sensitive information. Every word was poison wrapped in concern. Every explanation plausible enough to make me sound paranoid if I argued. At your age, she continued, her voice soft and sympathetic, it's so easy for people to take advantage. Scammers, identity thieves. I was trying to protect you. By sneaking in when I'm not home, I wasn't sneaking, Mom. I was coming by to tidy up, to make sure everything was okay. I didn't want to bother you during your activities. You've told me how much you enjoy your water aerobics and bridge club. I didn't want to interrupt your social time just to vacuum or organize your mail. Joshua put his arm around her. Mom, I think Brittany's been trying to help, and maybe the approach wasn't great, but her heart was in the right place. And this camera thing, Mom, this feels like you're becoming paranoid. Watching for problems that aren't there. Problems that aren't there? Joshua, she's been in my home without my knowledge at least a dozen times. To help you, Brittany whispered. Only to help you. Then why didn't you tell me? Why sneak around? She dabbed at her eyes with a tissue, conveniently pulled from her purse at exactly the right moment, because I knew you'd react like this. You're so proud, Mom. So independent. I knew if I offered to help directly, you'd say no. You'd insist you could handle everything yourself. And you can. You absolutely can. But is it so wrong that I wanted to make your life a little easier? That I wanted to be a good daughter to you? I looked at my son, my Joshua, hoping he'd see through this, hoping 40 years of being his mother counted for something. He looked back at me with pity. Mom, maybe we should look into some help for you. Not because you can't manage, but because you shouldn't have to do everything alone. That's when I realized she'd already won this round. After they left, after the uneaten casserole was packed up, after the pitying hugs and promises to check in more often, I sat in my apartment and cried for the first time since Richard's funeral. Not because Brittany had violated my home. Not because things were missing or my privacy was destroyed, but because my own son didn't believe me. The camera kept recording, and Brittany kept coming. I documented everything, made a folder on that tablet Devin had sold me, labeled each video with the date and time. Brittany's visits followed a pattern now that I was paying attention. Tuesday mornings, 9:15 a.m. to 10 a.m. during water aerobics. Thursday afternoons, 2 p.m. to 3:30 p.m. during bridge club. Saturday mornings, 10 a.m. to 11:15 a.m. during grocery shopping. She had my schedule memorized. She knew my life better than I did. The violations got worse. Week by week, she got bolder. I watched her try combinations on my safe, the small one I kept in my closet for truly important documents. She didn't get in. Thank God I'd changed the combination after the coin incident. But she tried. Dozens of times, different number sequences. Her face screwed up in concentration. I watched her go through my address book, photograph every page. My friends' numbers, my doctor's information, my lawyer's contact details. She was mapping my entire life. I watched her in my bathroom, opening my medicine cabinet, photographing my prescriptions. When I later mentioned to Joshua that my blood pressure medication seemed to be running out faster than it should, Brittany sweetly suggested that, at your age, Mom, it's easy to lose track of doses. Maybe we should look into one of those pill organizers with alarms. She was counting my pills, tracking my medication. Why? The most disturbing footage came on a Thursday in November. I watched her sit at my kitchen table, my table where Richard and I had eaten breakfast for 30 years, on her phone with someone. No audio, but her body language told a story. She was animated, gesturing around my apartment. She pulled up photos on her phone, showed them to whoever she was video chatting with. Then she pulled out a notebook, an actual physical notebook, and started writing. She was making a list, an inventory of my life. That evening, Joshua called. Not about Brittany, about me. Mom, we need to talk about your health. My health is fine. Joshua, Brittany mentioned you seem confused lately, forgetting conversations, misplacing things, getting dates mixed up. She's worried, and honestly, so am I. Joshua Antonio Washington, I am not confused. I am not forgetting things. Your wife is gaslighting me. That's a very serious accusation, Mom. And using therapy terms like that, have you been Googling things? Reading articles that are making you suspicious of normal behavior? Normal behavior? Breaking and entering is normal behavior. She has a key you gave her. She's trying to help. And Mom, I'm saying this because I love you. This paranoia, this obsession with cameras and accusations, it's not healthy. We think maybe you should talk to someone, a professional. Dr. Patterson at Northwestern does wonderful work with seniors experiencing. I am not experiencing anything except a manipulative daughter-in-law and a son who won't believe his own mother. I hung up. My hands were shaking so badly I dropped the phone. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, listening to every sound in the building. Every footstep in the hallway made me tense. Every door closing made me wonder if it was mine. I was 72 years old, and I was afraid in my own home. At 2 a.m., I made a decision. I opened my laptop, the old Dell that Joshua had set up for me years ago, and I started researching. Not therapists, not elder care, not anything Brittany wanted me to look into. I researched my rights, tenant laws, breaking and entering statutes, video evidence admissibility, and I started looking at apartments in other neighborhoods. I called the Chicago Police Department non-emergency line on a Monday morning in December. The officer who answered sounded young, bored. Chicago PD, what's your emergency? It's not an emergency exactly, but I need to report a break-in. Multiple break-ins, actually. His tone shifted, slightly more interested. Ma'am, are you in danger right now? No, I'm not home. But someone has been entering my apartment without permission for months. I have video evidence. Is this a domestic situation? I hesitated. Fatal mistake. It's my daughter-in-law. Silence. Then, your daughter-in-law has a key to your apartment. She made a copy without my permission. But you gave a key to your son. Is that correct? Yes, for emergencies only. Ma'am, if you gave a key to a family member and they shared it with another family member, that's a civil matter, not a criminal one. You'd need to change your locks and work that out within your family. But she's stealing from me, going through my personal documents. Has she taken anything of significant value that you can prove? I thought of the coins. No photos of them beforehand. No receipts from 30 years ago. Just my word against hers. I have video of her in my apartment when I'm not there. Ma'am, respectfully, if she has a key and family access, that's not breaking and entering. That's a family dispute. My suggestion is to change your locks and have a conversation with your son about boundaries. He was polite, professional, completely useless. Thank you for your time, I said, and hung up. But I didn't give up. 2 weeks later, after another video of Brittany spending 90 minutes in my apartment after watching her try my safe combination again, after seeing her photograph the inside of my refrigerator, Why my refrigerator? I called again. This time I got a different officer. Older sounding. Maybe more sympathetic. I explained everything. The videos. The pattern. The escalation. I offered to come to the station and show them the footage. Ma'am, I'm going to send an officer to your address to take a statement. Can you be home this afternoon around 2? Finally, progress. Officer Davis arrived at 2:15 p.m. Young, professional, with kind eyes that reminded me of Joshua at that age. He sat in my living room, notebook out, and listened to my whole story. I showed him the videos. All of them. Weeks of footage of Brittany violating my home. He watched silently, made notes, asked good questions. Mrs. Washington, this is definitely concerning behavior. But I have to be honest with you. The fact that she has a key, the fact that she's family, it complicates things legally. Did you explicitly tell her she wasn't allowed to have a key or enter your apartment? I never gave her the key in the first place. But your son had a key? Yes. And he's married to her? Yes. In Illinois, married couples are typically considered to share property and access rights. Unless you explicitly revoked her access in writing or changed your locks, a prosecutor would have trouble proving criminal intent. So she can just walk into my home whenever she wants? Go through my things? Steal from me? Has she taken anything you can prove belongs to you? Do you have receipts, photos, proof of purchase for the missing items? My silence was answer enough. Officer Davis closed his notebook. Ma'am, my honest advice? Change your locks immediately. Send your son and daughter-in-law a certified letter stating they no longer have permission to enter your apartment. Document everything. If she enters after that, then we have a clear case of trespassing, and you can press charges. And the videos I already have, they show someone with apparent authorized access entering an apartment. Without proof of revoked access or theft of specific items, there's not much we can do. He left 20 minutes later. I sat alone with my useless videos and my violated home. The system wasn't designed to protect old women from charming young criminals. That's when I started planning something else entirely. I changed my locks the next day. Cost me $175 for the locksmith to come out and install new deadbolts, new door handles, new everything. I kept the old locks in a plastic bag. Evidence, maybe, proof that I'd taken steps. Then I wrote the letter Officer Davis had suggested. Took me 3 drafts to get it right. To Joshua and Brittany Washington. This letter serves as formal notice that you no longer have permission to enter my apartment at 847 Riverside Gardens, Unit 4C, for any reason. All keys previously given are hereby revoked. Any future entry without my explicit, verbal, in-person permission will be considered trespassing, and I will contact the police immediately. Signed, Margaret Washington. I sent it certified mail. Paid extra for signature confirmation. Joshua signed for it on a Tuesday. He called me 30 minutes later, furious. Mom, what the hell? A legal letter? Are you serious right now? I'm very serious. Joshua, your wife has violated my home for the last time. She was helping you, and now you're threatening to call the cops on your own family? Do you know how this makes you look? How does it make me look, Joshua? Silence. Then quieter. Mom, Brittany's really hurt. She's been crying all morning. She was just trying to be a good daughter to you, and you're treating her like a criminal. She is a criminal. She's my wife. And you need to decide if you want to be part of this family or if you want to keep pushing us away with these paranoid accusations. He hung up before I could respond. I sat there holding my phone, my son's ultimatum ringing in my ears. Choose between truth and family, between my dignity and my only child. For 3 days, the apartment was quiet, no unexpected visits, No keys turning in locks that shouldn't open for her anymore. I almost relaxed. Then, on Friday morning, I was leaving for water aerobics when I ran into the building maintenance supervisor, James Carter. Big guy, late 50s, always friendly. Morning, Mrs. Washington. Got those locks working okay? They're perfect, James. Thank you for recommending that locksmith. No problem at all. Oh, and your daughter came by yesterday. The pretty one with the blonde hair said she lost her key and needed to get into your place to drop off some groceries. I let her borrow my master key. Hope that was all right. My blood turned to ice. You let her use your master key? Well, sure. She's family, right? She was real sweet about it, even offered to tip me. But I said, no, ma'am, we take care of our residents' families here at Riverside Gardens. I couldn't breathe. The hallway started spinning. Mrs. Washington? Okay. You need to sit down. When was this? Yesterday, around 10:30? She was only inside, maybe 20 minutes. Brought out your trash for you too. Said she noticed it was getting full. Real thoughtful. That daughter of yours. Not daughter. Daughter-in-law. But I didn't correct him. I just nodded, mumbled something about being late, and walked to my car on shaking legs. She'd found a way back in. Of course she had. Changed locks meant nothing when charming Brittany could sweet-talk a maintenance supervisor into handing over master key access. I didn't go to water aerobics. I drove straight home, burst into my apartment, and pulled up the camera footage from Thursday. There she was, 10:30 a.m., exactly like James said, using a master key, inside for 23 minutes. And this time, she wasn't going through drawers or photographing things. She was in my kitchen, opening cabinets, doing something with my coffee maker, pouring something into the water reservoir. I couldn't quite see what. Then she was in my bathroom, my medicine cabinet, switching pills between bottles. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the tablet. What was she doing? What was she putting in my coffee maker? Why was she switching my medications? I called the police immediately. Third time. Maybe this time they'd listen. Ma'am, you've called about this issue before. She's tampering with my medication. She's putting something in my coffee. You need to send someone right now. 45 minutes later, 2 officers arrived. Different ones this time. Officer Kim and Officer Thompson. They looked tired before I even started talking. I showed them everything. The letter, the changed locks, the video of her using the master key, the footage of her in my kitchen and bathroom. What exactly is she putting in your coffee maker? Officer Kim asked. I don't know. That's why you need to investigate. And the medication. Did you check if anything's actually been switched? I hadn't. I ran to my bathroom, grabbed my pill bottles with shaking hands. Blood pressure medication, cholesterol medication, baby aspirin. All looked normal. Labels intact. No obvious tampering. Mrs. Washington. Officer Thompson said gently, I can see this situation is very stressful for you. But what we're seeing here is a family member who had access to your apartment through building maintenance, which isn't illegal, and we can't actually see what she's doing in these videos. You said yourself you don't know what she might have put in your coffee maker, and your medications appear fine. So you're not going to do anything? Ma'am, honestly, this looks like a family dispute that's escalated to an unhealthy level. My suggestion is to speak with your building management about restricting master key access, maybe talk to your doctor about the stress you're under, and consider family counseling with your son and daughter-in-law. Family counseling with the woman terrorizing me. After they left, I poured out every liquid in my kitchen. Coffee, creamer, cooking oil, everything. Dumped every open food container. Started a list of every medication I took and called my pharmacy to confirm the pills matched the descriptions. Everything checked out. Nothing poisoned. Nothing switched, which somehow made it worse, because it meant either I was paranoid, like everyone kept saying, or Brittany was just practicing, testing how far she could go, what she could get away with. That night, I barely slept. Every sound in the building was Brittany. Every creak was her finding another way in. At 3 a.m., I made my final decision. I was done asking for help, done waiting for someone to believe me, done playing by rules that only protected pretty young women who knew how to cry on command. I opened my laptop and started searching for apartments in Chicago neighborhoods Brittany would never think to look. If the system wouldn't protect me, I'd protect myself. The next morning, I called a real estate agent. Her name was Janet Morrison, 50-something, with a no-nonsense voice that I immediately trusted. I told her what I needed: an apartment in a different neighborhood, good security, available immediately, and most importantly, complete confidentiality. Mrs. Washington, I handle relocations for domestic violence situations all the time. Whatever you need, we keep it quiet. No one has to know where you're moving until you're ready to tell them. Domestic violence. Was that what this was? Brittany never hit me, never threatened me physically, but the constant violation, the gaslighting, the systematic erosion of my sense of safety in my own home, wasn't that violence too? I need to see places today if possible, I said. And Janet, my son and daughter-in-law cannot know about this. No one can know. Understood completely. I have 3 units I can show you this afternoon, all in buildings with excellent security, all available for immediate occupancy. I told Mrs. Chun from 4B that I was going to visit my cousin in Milwaukee for a few days. I told Joshua, when he finally returned my calls from 2 days earlier, that I was thinking about taking a little trip to clear my head. Maybe you're right, I said, forcing my voice to sound tired and defeated. Maybe I have been too stressed. A change of scenery might help. I could hear the relief in his voice. That's great, Mom. That's really great. We just want you to be happy and healthy. We. Always we now. Never just Joshua. Never just my son. Janet showed me 3 apartments that afternoon. The first was too far from my doctor. The second had bad lighting that reminded me of a hospital. But the third was perfect. Lincoln Park, 8th floor, building from the 1920s that had been renovated with modern security but classic charm. Doorman 24/7. Keycard access to elevators. Security cameras in every hallway. No master keys. Every apartment had a unique electronic lock that could be remotely deactivated if needed. And most importantly, it was across the city from Riverside Gardens. A 40-minute drive. Completely different neighborhood. Somewhere Brittany would never accidentally run into me, never casually drive by, never charm her way into. I'll take it. I told Janet. Don't you want to think about it? Talk it over with your family? No. I want it now. How fast can we make this happen? If you can put down first month, last month, and security deposit today, you can start moving in tomorrow. I wrote the check. $6,300. Worth every penny. That evening, I started planning. Not just the move. Anyone can move. I started planning the trap. Because here's what I realized sitting in that empty apartment, looking out over Chicago from my new 8th floor view. Brittany wasn't going to stop. She couldn't stop. Whatever she was after, my money, my belongings, proof of my incompetence for some legal maneuver, she needed access to my apartment to get it. As long as she thought I lived at Riverside Gardens, she'd keep finding ways in. Through maintenance, through lockpicks, through whatever means necessary. She'd proven that already. But what if I didn't live there anymore? What if I moved out completely, quietly, without telling anyone? What if I let her break into an apartment that wasn't mine? I called Riverside Gardens management. I need to ask about your policy on lease transfers. If I wanted to move out, what's the notice period? 30 days written notice, Mrs. Washington. Is everything all right? Everything's fine. Just planning ahead. And continue. 6:30 p.m. Hypothetically, if I moved out, how long would my apartment stay vacant before you rented it to someone new? Usually we try to turn units around within 2 weeks. Clean them. Do any repairs needed. Then list them. We have a waiting list of applicants. Why do you ask? Just curious. Thank you. I had 30 days. 30 days to move my entire life without Brittany noticing. 30 days to set the perfect trap. I opened a new document on my laptop and started writing out the plan. Week 1, continue normal routine. Let Brittany see me at the building, think everything is normal. Meanwhile, start boxing up non-essential items. Books, decorations, extra kitchenware. Things I wouldn't need day to day. Store them at the new apartment. Week 2, start the paper trail. Change my address with the post office, but delayed start date, effective at the end of the month. Update my banking information, doctor's office, everywhere important. All with the new address. All confidential. Week 3, move the valuables. Jewelry, important documents, photos, everything that actually mattered. Transport them personally, nothing that could go missing. Week 4, move myself. Furniture, remaining belongings, everything. Clean out the old apartment completely. Submit my notice to Riverside Gardens. Disconnect my camera. No, wait. Keep the camera running. Let it record the empty apartment. Let it record whoever broke in next, because someone would break in. I knew who. I knew when, probably within days of my leaving, once I stopped showing up for water aerobics and bridge club and grocery shopping. And when she did, when Brittany used whatever method she'd found to access an apartment that was no longer mine, an apartment I no longer had any legal right to, an apartment that belonged to Riverside Gardens and their new tenant. She wouldn't be a concerned daughter-in-law checking on family. She'd be a trespasser, a criminal, a woman breaking into someone else's property with no legal justification whatsoever. And this time, when I called the police, they'd have to listen. I smiled for the first time in weeks. Not a happy smile. A satisfied one. Brittany wanted to play games with an old woman? Fine. Let's see how she liked playing with someone who'd had 72 years to learn patience, strategy, and the art of revenge. Moving without being noticed is harder than you'd think, especially when you're 72 and your daughter-in-law has apparently installed some kind of surveillance on your daily routine. I started slow, careful, strategic. On Saturday, I loaded my car with 3 boxes of books and told Mrs. Chin I was donating them to the library, drove them straight to Lincoln Park instead, unpacked them in my new living room, where sunlight streamed through windows that Brittany had never looked through, would never look through. On Tuesday, after water aerobics, which I actually attended, keeping up appearances, I stopped by the new apartment with 2 suitcases of off-season clothing. Summer dresses I wouldn't need until April. Richard's old coat that I couldn't bear to donate, but didn't need hanging in my current closet. Wednesday, Joshua called. Mom, Brittany drove by Riverside Gardens yesterday and saw you coming back from somewhere with your car full. She's worried you're taking on too much driving around town. We could help you with errands if you need. So she was watching, even after the letter, after the changed locks, after everything. Still watching. I'm fine, Joshua. Just doing some spring cleaning early. Donating things to charity. That's good, Mom. That's really good. Hey, we were thinking about coming over for dinner this weekend. Brittany wants to cook for you. An apology dinner, sort of. Clear the air. This weekend isn't good. I'm tired. Maybe next month. Next month? Mom, that's okay. Okay, we'll give you space. But were worried about you. I bet they were. By the end of week 2, I'd moved 70% of my belongings. Everything non-essential. Everything I could transport in my old Camry without arousing suspicion. My new apartment was starting to look like home. My old apartment was starting to look like a stage set. Enough furniture to appear lived in, but nothing that mattered. Nothing I'd cry over if it went missing. The hardest part was the photos. All those pictures of Joshua growing up, of Richard and me on our anniversaries of family vacations to Michigan, and that one trip to Hawaii for our 25th. I couldn't leave them for Brittany to paw through, but I also couldn't remove them all without it being obvious. I compromised, left the framed photos up on the walls and shelves. But I took them out of the frames first, replaced them with similar-looking printouts from online. Random stock photos of people who could pass for us from a distance. If you looked closely, you'd notice. But Brittany never looked closely at us. We were just marks to her, assets to inventory. Week 3, the valuables moved under cover of darkness. Well, under cover of a Tuesday evening. I told Mrs. Chun I was going to a movie. Instead, I drove to Riverside Gardens at 8 p.m., late enough that Brittany wouldn't be watching, early enough that I didn't look suspicious loading my car in the parking garage. Richard's watch collection, my mother's jewelry, the real coin collection, what was left of it, birth certificates, insurance policies, the title to the cemetery plots Richard and I had purchased, all of it packed carefully in a single box that I carried myself, that never left my sight, that I personally unpacked in my new apartment's safe. Janet had found me a beautiful safe built into the bedroom closet. Biometric lock. No combination for Brittany to guess. By day 23, my old apartment at Riverside Gardens was a shell. Furniture that came with the place or wasn't worth moving. Kitchen items I'd replaced. Clothes I didn't wear anymore. The skeleton of a life waiting to be abandoned. My camera was still there, though hidden in that clock on the bookshelf. Still recording. Still watching. On day 25, I submitted my notice to Riverside Gardens management. I've decided to move closer to some friends. I told them, nothing wrong with the apartment. I've just been here long enough. We're sorry to see you go, Mrs. Washington. You've been an excellent tenant. We'll start processing your deposit return and list the unit as available starting March 1st. Actually, I said carefully, I'd like to request something. Don't list it immediately. I need a few days after I move out to make sure I haven't forgotten anything. Is it possible to hold it for just 1 week before you put it on the market? That's unusual, but sure. We can give you until March 7th before we officially list it. Perfect. A week window. A week where the apartment would be empty, no longer mine, no longer my legal responsibility, but not yet assigned to anyone else. A week where anyone breaking in would have absolutely no justification. No family connection. No authorized access. Nothing but criminal trespass. On day 29, I moved the last of my things. Hired movers this time. 2 guys with a truck who didn't ask questions and didn't know my daughter-in-law. They loaded up the remaining furniture. At 9 a.m. on a Thursday, Brittany would be at work. Joshua would be at work. No one to watch. No one to wonder. By noon, the apartment was empty. Completely empty except for that camera, still recording from the bookshelf I'd strategically left behind, forgot to move, according to the note I'd leave for management. I stood in that empty apartment one last time. The place where I'd tried to build a peaceful retirement. The place where Brittany had stolen that piece by piece, violation by violation. Come on, I whispered to the empty rooms. Come on and take what you think is yours. I dare you. Then I locked the door, dropped my keys in the management office Dropbox with my move-out paperwork, and drove away. The first 3 days Nothing happened. I watched that camera feed obsessively from my new apartment, downloaded the app on my tablet, kept it next to me at all times, woke up multiple times each night to check. Nothing. Just an empty apartment slowly gathering dust. Maybe she'd given up. Maybe the changed locks and the certified letter and my spring cleaning had finally convinced her to leave me alone. Or maybe she was just planning, watching, waiting for the right moment. On day 4, March 4th, a Monday, I went to my new water aerobics class at the Lincoln Park Athletic Club. Different location, different people, but the same routine. I needed routine. Normal. Something to keep me grounded while I waited for Brittany to make her move. I was in the pool when my tablet buzzed in my locker. I almost didn't check it, but something, instinct maybe, or just paranoia refined into intuition, made me fake a cramp and cut the class short. I opened my locker with shaking hands, pulled up the camera feed. She was there, Brittany Turner Washington, in my old apartment. The apartment I no longer lived in, no longer had any legal right to, standing in my empty living room looking confused. She'd let herself in with, I zoomed in on the footage, a key, a regular key, not the electronic master key. She'd made a copy of my old locks before I'd changed them. Of course she had, probably months ago, probably the first week she'd started her invasions. I watched her walk through the apartment, her confusion growing with each empty room. Kitchen cabinets open, barren. Bedroom closet empty. Bathroom cleared out. She pulled out her phone, made a call. Her mouth moved, but I couldn't hear what she was saying. Angry gestures. Frustrated pacing. She stayed for 37 minutes, checking every room twice, opening every drawer and cabinet, looking for something, anything, looking for me. Finally, she left, locked the door carefully behind her, like she'd never been there. I sat in that locker room, wrapped in my towel, watching the footage replay. My heart was pounding so hard, I thought I might actually have that cramp I'd faked. She'd done it. She'd broken into a property she had no right to access, and I had it on video. But I didn't call the police. Not yet, because this was just reconnaissance for her. She didn't know I'd moved. She probably thought I was out, maybe on that trip I'd mentioned to Joshua. She'd come back. I knew she would. She'd come back to figure out what was going on, where I'd gone, where my valuables had disappeared to, and the next time I'd be ready. I called Janet Morrison from the locker room. The old apartment, is it still officially vacant? Not listed yet. Not until March 7th, like you requested. Why? I need you to do something for me. Can you have your company post a for rent sign in the window? Today if possible. Sure, but Mrs. Washington, what's going on? I'm making a point. Can you do it? By 5 p.m., there was a sign in the window of Unit 4C at Riverside Gardens. Luxury apartment available March 15th. Contact Morrison Realty. I drove by to see it myself. Had to. Needed to know it was real. There it was, right in the window. Official. Public. Undeniable proof that this wasn't my apartment anymore. Now we waited for Brittany to see it. She came back Wednesday. Morning this time, probably taking a long lunch from work or calling in sick. The camera caught her stopping in the hallway, staring at that sign in the window. Her face, God, her face. Confusion shifted to realization, shifted to something that looked almost like panic. She tried her key. It worked, obviously. I'd never notified management that she had a copy. She shouldn't have one, but she did. And that was the whole point. This time, she didn't stay long. 5 minutes. Checked the apartment quickly, confirmed it was empty, left. But she'd be back. I knew she would, because the biggest question was still unanswered. Where was Margaret Washington? Where had I gone? And more importantly, where were all my valuables, my documents, my mother's jewelry, Richard's watches, everything she'd spent months cataloging and planning to, what? Steal? Use to have me declared incompetent. I still didn't know her endgame. Thursday afternoon, Joshua called. Finally. Mom, where are you? I went by your apartment and there's a for rent sign in the window. What the hell is going on? I moved, Joshua. Silence. Long, heavy silence. You moved. You moved without telling me? Without even asking if I wanted any of Dad's things, any family items. The family items are safe. Everything that matters is safe. Where are you living? Somewhere peaceful. Mom, this is insane. You can't just disappear. What if something happens to you? What if you have a medical emergency? I've updated all my doctors. Joshua, I've updated my emergency contacts. Everything legal and necessary has been handled. But you didn't tell me. Your own son. No, Joshua, I didn't. Because I couldn't trust you. Because every time I told you something, Brittany knew within hours. Because you chose her over me, over and over again. His voice cracked. That's not fair. Fair? Joshua, your wife has been breaking into my home for 6 months. Stealing from me. Gaslighting me. Going through my medical records and my bank statements and my personal belongings. And every single time I came to you for help, you told me I was paranoid. You suggested I get checked for dementia. You chose to believe her tears over your own mother's truth. So no, I don't trust you with my new address. And I won't. Not until you're ready to hear the truth about who you married. Mom. I hung up. That night, Brittany came back one more time. 8 p.m. The camera caught everything. This time, she didn't just look around. This time she was frantic, opening everything, checking corners, looking for hidden compartments or storage areas. She even checked the baseboards, like I might have hidden jewelry behind the walls. She knew I was gone. She knew I'd taken everything. And she knew that months of planning, months of careful inventory and strategic manipulation had just evaporated. I watched her sink onto the floor, my old floor in my old empty apartment, and put her head in her hands. Then she pulled out her phone and took pictures. The empty rooms, the dusty corners, the for rent sign visible through the window. She was documenting something, building some kind of case. But so was I. I had every entry saved, every violation recorded, every illegal trespass documented with timestamps and HD video. When she finally left at 9:47 p.m., I made a decision. Tomorrow, I'd call the police. One final time. And this time, they wouldn't be able to dismiss me. Friday morning, I woke up to 17 missed calls. 12 from Joshua, 5 from a number I didn't recognize. I called Joshua back first. What's wrong? What's wrong? Mom, Brittany is having a breakdown. She's convinced something bad happened to you. She's talking about filing a missing person report. She called your friends from Bridge Club, your doctor's office. She's been crying for 2 days straight. Whatever point you're trying to make, you've made it. Please, just tell us you're okay. Tell us where you are. I'm fine, Joshua. Better than fine. And Brittany knows I'm fine because she's been breaking into my old apartment all week checking on me. What are you talking about? The apartment you visited Wednesday? Your wife has been there 3 times since I moved out. Let me guess. She's the one who told you about the for rent sign. She's the one who told you I'd disappeared. Because she's been monitoring my old place, trying to figure out where I went. Mom, that's not what she said. She said she drove by to check on you because you weren't answering your phone and she saw the sign and got worried. Drove by. How did she get inside to see the apartment was empty? Silence. Joshua, ask your wife how she knew my apartment was empty. Ask her how she knew all my furniture was gone. You can't see that from the hallway. You have to go inside. And the only way inside is with a key to an apartment that's not mine anymore. I need to talk to her. Yes, Joshua. You do. I hung up and immediately opened the camera app. I had a feeling Brittany would make one more visit, one final check, either to confirm I was really gone or to, I didn't know what, but I knew she'd come back. I didn't have to wait long. At 10:43 a.m., the door to Unit 4C opened. Brittany stepped inside, and this time she wasn't alone. She had Joshua with her. My son, my Joshua, standing in my empty former apartment, looking around at the space where his mother used to live, where his father's memory used to hang on the walls in photo frames. I watched them through the camera, my hand pressed against my mouth. Brittany was talking, gesturing around the empty rooms. Joshua looked shell-shocked. She pulled him into the bedroom, showed him the empty closets, the bathroom with no medications, no toiletries, no sign anyone had lived there recently. Then she did something that made my blood boil. She opened her purse and pulled out a pill bottle, one of my old prescription bottles, one that should have been empty and in the trash, or that I'd taken with me. She placed it carefully on the bathroom counter. Then she pulled out a scarf, my scarf, one I thought I'd donated months ago, and draped it over the towel rack. She was staging the scene, planting evidence that I'd left in some kind of confused state, making it look like I'd abandoned my home without properly packing, without properly preparing. Joshua saw the pill bottle, picked it up. His face crumpled. Mom's medication. She left without her medication. Brittany, what if she's not okay? What if she's confused somewhere without her pills? That's what I've been afraid of, baby. Brittany's voice was soft, concerned, perfectly pitched. I think she might be having some kind of episode. We need to file that missing person report. We need to find her before something bad happens. But she called you this morning, and she sounded strange, Joshua. Paranoid. Confused. Not herself. This isn't normal behavior. Healthy people don't just disappear without telling their family. I was recording all of this. Every word, every planted piece of evidence, every manipulation. She didn't know about the camera. She'd never looked for it, never thought to check. Why would she? I was just a confused old woman who couldn't even remember if she'd taken her pills. Joshua pulled out his phone. I'm calling her again. No. Brittany put her hand over his phone. Joshua, listen to me. Your mother is not well. She hasn't been well for a long time. All those accusations about me, the cameras, the paranoia, these are symptoms. We need to find her. Yes, but we also need to be prepared for the possibility that she's going to need help. Real help. Maybe a care facility, somewhere with medical supervision. You want to put my mother in a home. I want to make sure she's safe. Joshua, she's 72 years old, living alone somewhere we don't know about, probably without her medications, definitely not thinking clearly. If something happens to her, if she falls or gets confused, or... Joshua sank onto the floor, his back against the bare wall. How did it come to this? It came to this because your mother needed help and was too proud to accept it. But we can still fix this. We can find her, get her the help she needs, make sure she's never alone or scared again. Every word was poison. Every sentence was calculated. And my son, my Joshua, my baby, was believing every syllable. They stayed in that apartment for 27 more minutes. Brittany found 2 more planted items, a stack of unpaid bills that were actually old junk mail I'd left in recycling, and a note I'd supposedly written to myself that said, "Don't forget Wednesday," with no context. She showed them to Joshua like they were proof of my declining mental state. When they finally left, Brittany was holding Joshua close, comforting him, playing the role of devoted wife, supporting her distraught husband through his mother's tragic decline. I sat in my new apartment, shaking with rage, and made 3 phone calls. First, To Officer Davis from CPD, this is Margaret Washington. I called you 2 months ago about my daughter-in-law breaking into my apartment. I need you to come to this address immediately. I have new evidence. Second, to Janet Morrison. I need you to call Riverside Gardens Management and tell them to change the locks on Unit 4C immediately. Tell them there's been unauthorized access. Third, to my lawyer. Yes, I'd hired a lawyer 2 weeks ago. Judith Chun, elder law specialist, no relation to Mrs. Chun from 4B. Judith, it's Margaret. I need you to start drafting that restraining order we discussed, and I need you to be present when I press charges. The trap was set. The evidence was collected, and Brittany Turner Washington was about to learn that you don't gaslight a woman who survived 72 years of life, 40 years of nursing, and 3 years of grief. You especially don't do it when she has video evidence of everything. Officer Davis arrived at my new apartment at 2 p.m. with another officer I didn't recognize. I'd spent the previous hour organizing every piece of evidence onto my laptop, timestamps, video clips, the certified letter, my lease termination paperwork, everything. Mrs. Washington. Officer Davis said, sitting at my new kitchen table, "You said you have new evidence." I turned the laptop toward him. My daughter-in-law has made 5 unauthorized entries into my former apartment since I moved out on February 28th. The most recent was this morning, where she brought my son with her and planted false evidence to suggest I'm mentally incompetent. It's all here. I played the videos. All of them. Monday's confused search. Wednesday's brief check. Thursday's frantic investigation. And finally, this morning's performance, the planted pill bottle, the scarf, the staged scene, the conversation about having me declared incompetent and placed in a facility. Officer Davis watched in silence. So did his partner, Officer Martinez. When the final video ended, neither spoke for a long moment. Finally, Martinez said, "That's pretty clear-cut trespassing." And the planted evidence that could be argued as attempted fraud or elder abuse. Does she know you're recording? She has no idea. And I have written documentation from Riverside Gardens Management that my lease terminated March 1st. She has no legal authorization to be in that unit. None. Has she taken anything from the apartment? There's nothing left to take. I moved everything. But you can see her trying to create a narrative, planting my prescription bottle to suggest I left without proper planning, staging the scene to make it look like I'm confused or impaired. Officer Davis leaned back in his chair. "Mrs. Washington, I remember your case from before. I'm going to be honest. I didn't fully believe you then. Family situations are complicated, and sometimes stress and paranoia can... I wasn't paranoid. I was right. You were absolutely right, and I apologize for not taking you more seriously." He glanced at his partner. "We need to get a statement from her and from Riverside Gardens about the unauthorized access. I want to press charges, full charges, trespassing, breaking and entering, attempted fraud, whatever applies. Given the video evidence, especially this morning's footage, we can definitely move forward with trespassing charges. The other charges would need the DA's office to review the evidence and determine if they meet the legal threshold. But Mrs. Washington, you should know this is going to get messy. This is your son's wife. Your family. She stopped being family when she started treating me like a mark. They took my statement, copied all the video files, took photos of the timeline I'd created, asked detailed questions about every entry, every violation, every conversation with Joshua and Brittany. At 4:30 p.m., Officer Davis called me. "We're at your old apartment now, with building management. The locks have been changed as you requested, but Mrs. Washington, she's here. Your daughter-in-law just showed up while we were documenting the scene." My heart stopped. "She's there now." She tried to let herself in with a key. We stopped her before she could enter. She's claiming she has authorization from you to check on the apartment. I've given her no such authorization. I sent a certified letter months ago explicitly revoking any access she thought she had. We've informed her of that. She's asking to speak with you. Absolutely not. I want her arrested for trespassing. She has no right to be there. Silence on the line. Then, Mrs. Washington, are you sure? Once we arrest her, there's no going back. This becomes official, on record, criminal charges against your son's wife. I'm 72 years old. Officer Davis. I don't have time to waste on going back. Arrest her. 20 minutes later, my phone rang. Joshua. I almost didn't answer. Mom, what the hell have you done? The police just arrested Brittany. At your old apartment, they're saying you pressed charges, that you have video of her trespassing. I do have video, Joshua. 5 separate incidents of her breaking into an apartment that isn't mine anymore, that she has no legal right to access. Today, she planted false evidence to make me look incompetent. I have all of it recorded. She was worried about you. We both were. You disappeared without telling anyone. I moved Joshua. People move. What they don't do is break into their former residences repeatedly to stage crime scenes. Crime scenes? Mom, do you hear yourself? This is Brittany, my wife, your daughter-in-law, and you just had her arrested like some common criminal. She is a criminal, Joshua. She's been committing crimes against me for 6 months. I tried to tell you. I showed you evidence. I begged you to believe me. And every single time, you chose her lies over my truth. So yes, I pressed charges. And yes, I'm done protecting people who don't protect me. If you go through with this, if you don't drop these charges, don't expect to hear from me again. I can't have a mother who would do this to my wife. The words hit like a physical blow. But I prepared for this. I'd known it might come to this. Joshua, I love you. I will always love you. You're my son. But I love myself too. And I'm done setting myself on fire to keep other people warm. If you can't see what she's been doing, if you can't see how she's manipulated both of us, then maybe some distance is what we both need. This is really your choice. Pressing charges over having your son in your life. This is really your choice, Joshua. A woman you've known 5 years over the mother who raised you for 38. He hung up. I sat in my new apartment, in my safe space that Brittany would never violate, and I cried. Not for the loss. I'd already grieved that. But for the relief. The war was over. I'd won. It didn't feel like winning. It felt like survival. But sometimes survival is the only victory that matters. My lawyer called an hour later. Margaret, I've been in contact with the DA's office. They're reviewing your evidence for additional charges beyond the trespassing. Given the planted evidence and the conversation about having you declared incompetent, they're considering elder abuse charges. How do you want to proceed? All the way, Judith. Every charge they can make stick. Are you prepared for the consequences? This will likely end your relationship with your son. That relationship ended the first time he told me I was too old to trust my own memory. I'm just making it official. 3 days later, Brittany was formally charged with 5 counts of criminal trespass and 2 counts of attempted elder abuse. The story made the local news. North Side woman charged with systematically trespassing against former mother-in-law. I didn't watch the coverage, didn't read the comments, didn't check to see if Joshua tried to call. I went to water aerobics at my new gym, had lunch with new friends from my new bridge club, planted herbs on my new balcony, started living the peaceful retirement I'd tried to have 18 months ago. On day 14 of my new life, there was a knock at my door. Building security had called first. Someone named Joshua Washington was asking to come up. I almost said no, but maybe, just maybe, my son had finally opened his eyes. I opened the door. Joshua stood there, looking 10 years older than the last time I'd seen him. No Brittany beside him. Just my son, alone, with tears running down his face. "Mom," he whispered, "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." I didn't say it was okay, because it wasn't, but I stepped aside and let him in. Some bridges, once burned, can be rebuilt. Slowly, carefully, with accountability and time. And some daughters-in-law, once exposed, face exactly the consequences they earned. Brittany Turner Washington pled guilty to avoid trial, got 2 years probation, community service, and a permanent restraining order keeping her 500 feet from me at all times. My valuables were all safe in my new apartment. My dignity was restored. My peace was real. And at 72 years old, I'd learned the most important lesson of all: never let anyone make you doubt your own reality. Not family, not police, not anyone. Trust yourself. Document everything. And when they won't listen, make them see. You know what the most satisfying part of this whole story was? It wasn't seeing Brittany in handcuffs. It wasn't the guilty plea or the restraining order or even Marcus finally opening his eyes to who he married. It was the moment I stopped asking for permission to protect myself. For 6 months, I begged people to believe me. The police dismissed me. My son doubted me. Everyone treated me like I was the problem. Too old, too paranoid, too confused to trust my own reality. But I wasn't confused. I was right. And the second I stopped waiting for someone to save me and started saving myself, everything changed. Brittany is on probation. Marcus and I are rebuilding slowly, carefully, with the truth finally out in the open. And me? I'm 72 years old, living in my beautiful apartment, going to water aerobics, playing bridge, and sleeping peacefully for the first time in a year. Because here's what they don't tell you about getting older. You don't get weaker. You get wiser. You get strategic. You get tired of other people's nonsense. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever been gaslit by family? Has someone ever made you doubt your own reality? Drop your story in the comments. Let's build a community where we believe each other, where we support each other, where we refuse to be dismissed just because we're older, wiser, or too sensitive. And if you're going through something like this right now, document everything. Everything. Cameras, written records, timestamps, witnesses. Because when they won't listen to your words, make them see the evidence. If this story fired you up, if you're tired of watching people get away with disrespecting their elders, then you're in the right place. This is Vintage Vengeance, where we prove that the best revenge isn't about getting even, it's about getting justice. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because I've got more stories coming. Stories about inheritance thieves who thought they'd get away with it, about nursing home neglect that got exposed, about entitled family members who learned expensive lessons, about seniors who refused to be victims and became victors instead. We're building something here, a community of people who refuse to accept that's just how family is as an excuse for abuse, who understand that respect isn't about age, it's about character, who know that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is set boundaries and enforce consequences. Before you go, tell me this. Before you go, tell me this. Do you think Margaret did the right thing? Should she have dropped the charges to keep the peace with Marcus? Or was she right to press charges and let Brittany face the consequences? Comment press charges if you're Team Margaret, or drop it if you think she went too far. I'm genuinely curious where you all stand on this. And if you know someone dealing with a toxic family member right now, someone being gaslit, dismissed, or violated, share this video with them. Let them know they're not crazy, they're not overreacting, and they're not alone. This is Vintage Vengeance, where getting older means getting bolder, where silver hair comes with steel spines, and where we prove every single day that you're never too old to stand up for yourself. I'm Margaret Washington, reminding you, document everything, trust yourself, and never, ever let anyone make you doubt your own reality. See you in the next video. And remember, stay vigilant, stay vindicated, and stay victorious.